We're back, people, and today we're going to film on Mohamed Kamara, Miami Dolphins edge defender. Another steal for them on day 3. I think him and Washington, Malik Washington, were the 2 biggest steals for them. He went about like 50 picks later than I think he should have. Really, really good player. Relentless motor. You'll love how like intense of a player he is. You even hear him in his interviews, but he just gets after it. The reason I think he did fall as far is because he's a bit undersized, doesn't have the greatest length, and usually when you have that as an edge rusher, you have to be like an elite athlete. I think he's a good athlete. Like if you look at, the Chop Robinson, who they also took, he's an absolutely elite, rare athlete. I think Kamara, doesn't have quite that, bend he does, but he has a really good first step. He gets after it. He's willing to set the edge. I don't think he's as good as a run defender. He's definitely more polished with his pass rush, but he can work from both sides. He has multiple moves in his bag. That's where I think, he'll stand out from maybe Chop early on is he's a little more prepped with his pass rush bag. But yeah, he gets after it. He can bend. The first step explosiveness is probably his best athletic trait, getting after it. And he understands like how to work his angles. He mix things up. He can win inside, outside. He knows how to use his hands. Love how he sets things up too. Giving that like hard stab. He'll get low off the ball. Knows how to use his feet combined with his hands. Get this guy to lunge out. And then you want to get to that outside hand. Club, rip underneath. And then he has the bend to actually get to the quarterback. So he plays with a lot of good leverage. That, undersized can help him get underneath offensive linemen. And I think, a good comp for him as a player is Shaq Barrett, who is on the Dolphins right now. Have some similar skill set. If you watch Barrett when he came out, kind of looked like Kamara. And Kamara, super productive, which is another huge thing. Like, he got after it, man. And if you heard him in his interview, that guy was ready to make the whole league pay, which I love that mentality, going way later than expected. I love taking these types of players on day 3 that you think could be 3rd, 4th round players, but end up falling for, whatever reason. Usually, as long as, not something like really bad, like, some off-field issues or a medical thing, but they fall because of maybe their size a little bit. I love taking those players that can still contribute. I could see Kamara even contributing in year 1 as a 5th round player, due to the injuries to Phillips and Chubb, but being part of the rotation, I think, he'll be NFL ready. He clearly loves to get after it. Really good job using his hands again, getting that outside track. He loves to, rip underneath, swipe down on that outside hand, use the leverage of the alignment against him, and it's all very, very smooth. You can see the burst here. Once he gets there, he's low, bending, fluidity, hips, and then he chases after the quarterback. And he's always swiping for that ball, too. Sometimes he'll get it out, sometimes he won't. But, yeah, Kamara, really, really fun player. Definitely a pick that I like. Wins around the edge there, just with some pure speed. Like, the tackle doesn't get out of his set as far this time. Usually, you got to get out of your set for guys like this. Kamara, burst, dip, that shoulder underneath, rip again, get around. I did make a video on Kamara not even that long ago. I made one before the draft, so if you haven't seen that one, you can check that. It's just different clips. And, you can see my opinion on Kamara before even the Dolphins drafted him. Because, sometimes people might think, it's a bias, but I mean, I've shown that there's certain players in the draft that I really like that the Dolphins took. Some players, not as much. Specifically, Patrick Paul, just not my type of player. I still hope it works out. But just watching Kamara go to work is so much fun. Working his hands and feet here, off the ball, everything just timed together. Switches up his footwork, which is good, which keeps, offensive lineman off balance. With the boom, boom, gives him like a stick jab, and then uses his hands to keep himself clean to swipe down, 2-hand swipe. And this is with the offensive lineman, being a little late with his hands and getting around the edge again. Really, really nice. And he has the bend to get to the quarterback. Kamara, very, very exciting to watch him go to work. Also loves to use some speed to power. That's another part of his game he likes. He likes to play with some pop. If he sets the edge, it's usually when he has a pop in his hands and he kind of catches the offensive lineman off guard, and he'll set that edge hard, as hard as he can. I just don't think it's super as consistent as it could be right now. But he has some shock in his hands, which is nice. The O-lineman, this is the same O-lineman he beat around the edge earlier that we showed. Guy gets out of his set a little bit more. He recognizes it, uses speed to power, but then opens him up back to the inside so he can, use that inside counter. Just another way for him to win. The ball has to come out pretty early. So Kamara, doing a great job. He just really knows how to get after the quarterback. So many productive with his sacks. Doesn't even do anything too crazy on this rep. It's just a footwork. Explosive off the ball. When you have that explosiveness, you always have a chance. You have that first step, you always have a chance to get after the quarterback. and then boom, it's just the footwork, and then ripping underneath. He doesn't even get hands on this guy. He just footwork and then rips underneath, makes the offensive lineman open up his hips, doesn't allow him to get hands on his chest, and he doesn't ever, like, his hands never touch that offensive lineman, and he wins that rep without doing anything, like, super crazy. That's super impressive. And then he just plays relentless. He finishes very hard. This is actually from his 2022 film. He even improved a lot. Like, I thought some of his 2022 film was fine, but even going to 2023, he improved. This is versus Michigan, too. You could still see some of that raw talent that he is able to showcase. Going and get versus one of the best O-lines in the country, burst off the ball. This is more like winning with some athleticism. I feel like he looks like he's slightly more out of control here, and he's just improved that body control, but he's still, you know, being active with his hands, the bend, the first step. It's all there for Kamara. That type of stuff never has really left his game, and he just gets after it. Loves to win with some rip here. Like, and if you go look at my other film, he won with this stuff too, but the other clips he would use some speed to power, win in, you know, multiple different ways. Get around that edge. Just doesn't even have to use hands into the chest. He's just so explosive here, and he's using other moves throughout the game to, you know, set these types of things up, that he just dips underneath, throws that elbow back once he gets to that outside edge, and he has that bend to actually get to the quarterback and, you know, get that ball out. Love that, you know, situational awareness, knock that thing out. Here we get to see Kamara lined up, you know, standing up on the inside, you know, obvious passing situations. I love when players have the versatility to do this. We seen it with, like, Chop Robinson they took. I actually think Chop Robinson might even be better pass rushing from the interior like this in these obvious situations. Phillips really good at it. So having players that you can use like this just helps your defensive versatility. Coaches love that. It allows you to do different, like, twists and stunts. Like, he's knifing to the inside. He's kind of, you know, the guy who's crashing down and everyone else is going to, like, loop around. But he crashes down so hard between the center and guard here. He gets in between. He can play skinny, has some good core strength, you know, stay on his feet, balance, and then keep getting after the quarterback, and then, you know, get that sack on Sanders. He absolutely dominated that Colorado game. I had so many clips in my other film breakdown on him, and from this game specifically, and he just gets after it constantly. Love the effort motor that Kamara continuously plays with. Guy flies around the field, and he's just the type of guy you want on your team. And then, yeah, this last play that we're going to break down, love the bend out of him here. Like, if you look at him, he's not like your, usually, you know, he's more of like a 3-4 standing edge type. Could probably do some hand in the dirt. But here, like, he's basically head up with this tackle, hand in the dirt. Usually when you're like this, you're pretty easy to block in pass rush situations, less room to work with. But he's still able to win to the outside, hard club with that right hand, hard club, and then just work around the edge again. He does a great job not allowing the O-lineman to get his hands into his chest, and then he shows great core strength. Like, usually when you're in a position like this, and you're a little bit undersized, you can get washed around. But he has some good core strength, good job, you know, not allowing him to get hands into the front of him, and then he throws that arm back to get this guy, you know, behind him like that, and then he has the bend to get after the quarterback from that position. That's where you can tell that he actually has some bend, because when you're lined head up like this, it's hard to win around the edge like this without going past the quarterback. And he doesn't. It's not like the QB just gained a bunch of depth either. He's at a pretty normal depth for a quarterback. So that's really good work from Kamara. Love watching him get after the quarterback. Wouldn't even be surprised. Like, I think he is more advanced as a rusher when you just look at, like, how he uses his hands than Chop Robinson. Robinson's like an elite athlete, so, like, I could see them both actually kind of competing for a role early. Obviously, Chop is more of the long-term thing, but I could see them both actually making impacts early on, while the other, you know, two edges that they have on the roster with Phillips and Chubb recover, and then Shaq Barrett obviously will be out there making an impact. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see them all getting some looks, while, you know, wouldn't surprise me if Kamara ends up having a really solid career for a player that ends up getting taken in the 5th round. Feel really confident with, like, him and Malik Washington for the day 3 guys. Obviously, Jalen Wright, who they see, but they were willing to trade a 3rd round pick for Jalen Wright, even though they took him in the 4th. So I think they saw him. They basically saw him as a day 2 guy on this roster, and he'll also make an impact. But usually some of those other guys, you know, once you get them past round 5 and later, some of those guys don't even make the roster, and I feel good about Kamara and Washington. We'll see about McMorris. I'm going to do a video on Patrick McMorris later today, and then I will do a one on Taj Washington tomorrow, who I also like, especially for a 7th rounder. So if you guys like the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.